Okay, hi. Um, we're going to talk about mindsets, and the whole idea is there's something like the growth mindset, which is a big fundamental underlying thing. But we're going to talk about 11 other mindsets in addition. First of all, we're going to start by defining mindsets. And mindsets are deeply held beliefs, attitudes, and assumptions we can create about who we are and how the world works. Mindsets are really deeply ingrained in our psyche, and they depend on a variety of different things. First of all, on who we are and who we were born to be in terms of nature, and also what the environment did to us, and that is nurture. And then it depends on how we experience the environment and other people and all of that, and how we experience events that happen around us, and how we experience interactions with other people. And then it depends also on what we actively do, how we reflect on what we do, what lessons we learn about what we do. And that goes back into the whole idea of mindsets being something that we start off with, however, they can change throughout our life. We start off with certain belief systems and ways of knowing and understanding the world around us. Then it depends on the actions we take and the results we get and how we analyze the results. That turns into habits we develop, and that turns into the values we have, depending on what we've experienced. And if we reflect on it, we gain insights, and the insights we gain then feed back into changing, tweaking the mindsets. So mindsets are something that is not static. However, because they are so deeply ingrained in our belief systems and attitudes and our persona and identity that we have, it is difficult to change mindsets. Okay, so I'm going to, I have a whole bunch of different slides, and I have far too much information on all of the slides. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some of the pictures in the slides, and that's something you might want to focus on as well. And if you are very interested in this account, you're welcome to get the slides and read up in more detail what this is all about. With 11 different mindsets, there is a lot of different material. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first talk about all of the mindsets, and then we're going to have a discussion about the mindsets. And then we're going to talk more about what we can do with these mindsets and how we can understand ourselves and become our own best selves and help our clients become their best selves. And that's going to be the second discussion. So I'm going to be doing some talking for the next 20 minutes or so. I hope I can get it so quickly so that we can have powerful discussions. Next, I want to talk about all of the mindsets that I've identified. And there was a lot of thinking that went into identifying the mindsets and ordering them in particular ways. And the way I thought about it was starting off with those mindsets that are more foundational and fundamental, like the curiosity mindset is something of how babies even learn. And the idea of that is as we grow up, we can grow up into being a visionary, a sage, a hero, or whatever we want to be. And all of the other mindsets add into the picture. So the underlying sequence of this is somewhat related to human development, but not quite, because you can more or less be a strong visionary and you may be grappling with curiosity a little bit. So you can evolve in the different mindsets at different rates. Okay, so the way I thought about this is you start with curiosity, then positivity, then courage, then the famous growth mindset by Carol Dweck. And that builds into becoming a survivor as you grow. Then there is a mindset about morality. And the whole idea of morality is you have to have a moral compass in order to judge, establish the rest of the world. And you need to know what's right and wrong before you can turn into a visionary. And in order to be a good human being, you have to be responsible and accountable for your own actions. Then the next mindset is that of a sage, where a sage is a person, I'm going to talk about the definitions of all of them. A sage is a person who has got a high IQ, high EQ, and who is wise in addition. A hero is doing all the things that not everybody can do, but everybody can be a hero in their own life. And a saint is what you can grow into if you want to make a real difference in the world in a good way. Okay. Any questions on this so far, Nicole?
Yeah, I've got a couple coming up in the chat. I've seen Peter's just come in as well. Larry was asking, would it be fair to say that mindset is interchangeable with mental model as a descriptor? Is that something which you've come across before, Esther?
Yeah. It depends how you interpret it. It can be a mental model, but mental models are also, mental models imply that you've reflected on it quite intensely. And a model is more robust, whereas a mindset, you may have a mindset about certain things where you're not 100% aware that you do have that mindset.
Yeah.
So it has to do with awareness and reflection on it. Anything else?
Yeah, a couple of questions regarding about the sequence. Manon says the cycle starts with beliefs of ourselves, but doesn't that start with how we interpret the world? And Peter comes up, says, and what's behind the sequence of the mindset? So is there something that you can say about the route they go through?
I will say that, but I'm going to postpone that until I've gone through the individual mindsets.
Yeah.
Because it becomes apparent how they build up on each other.
Oh, wonderful.
Just a bit of a check-in. You had values down the slide, but above was the mindset. It's a chicken and egg thing, but I wonder whether if I had values and that values actually determine my mindset, but if your slide was the other way around, the way I saw it, I know it's not cast in stone. There's so many, gray areas or whatever, but I just like to postulate that I think when I have certain values that I treasure most, and they will change over time, like a student, a young worker, and an old person, and then that mindset changes accordingly. That's just what I wish to postulate. Thank you.
Yes, and that's what I'm going to conclude with, more or less, to some degree. And if you are up to it, you're welcome to ask me the same question at the end, because a lot of it will get apparent while I go through the mindsets.
Thank you.
And I keep your question in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mindsets evolve not just as you mature across the whole mindset spectrum, but they evolve within each mindset. And the whole idea is if you take, say, the courage mindset or the growth mindset, that most people are at a certain level relative to the average population. Some people are more courageous innately than other people with certain things, and it depends on specifics. So what you can do is there is also a tendency to evolve from negativity into positivity. You can develop more courage over years. You can move from a fixed to a growth mindset. So there's a development along and up the mindsets as well. And it becomes really messy when you try to follow it. And hopefully at the end, you're going to see a tool that may help. So the one thing that I want to sort of stress continuously is there is no good and bad. There is nothing such as you have to achieve a certain level and that's better. It is what it is, and you're your own judge of how curious or how courageous you want to be with certain things. So what I'm saying is who you are and who you want to become is in the eyes of the beholder, not in some kind of external assessor. So people can decide who they want to be and who their chosen best self is. Okay. Any quick question before we jump into the first mindset?
Just a quick one. The research aspect. Have you got research? How did you write?
I have some research and some references in there.
Wonderful, thank you. So we'll get those at the end. Thank you. And then just a quick one here from Bhavika. Does this critically look at how it can be applied in a weird context? And they say the Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. So looking at it a different lens. Does the lens through which you look at it affect the outcomes?
It can. But because the mindsets depend on the person who has the mindset, how you change your mindsets depending on externalities comes back into your innate mindsets that you have. So curiosity mindset, we're born to be curious. Babies learn by being curious. There's lots of research done on that. I haven't referenced it in these slides, but it's out there. And the way we learn is by being curious. Curiosity funnels learning. And the very unfortunate thing about curiosity is that as we grow older, we lose the concept of curiosity to some degree. Some people keep it, but a lot of people have to relearn to be curious. And curiosity and intelligence are deeply coupled. Like intelligence fosters curiosity, and curiosity fosters intelligence. And if somebody wants to do some research on how that fits together, that would be wonderful. And curious people are generally happier. There is research on that as well. So next, I want to talk about the positivity mindset. And the positivity mindset is a mindset that has lots of other mindsets ingrained in it. The way I see it is the positivity mindset is a mental and emotional attitude. And it incorporates things like being optimistic, having hope, being happy, thinking of lots of things that can be abundant. And it is about seeing opportunities in problems. And it's also about the strength-based mindset. And there is lots of research that has been done on positivity. And there are many references. Seligman is one, Shirzad is another one. I mean, there's lots of stuff that's done on all of the positivity stuff. All I want to sort of say is I'm lumping together 6 different mindsets into positivity. And there is a big challenge about that, because if you're optimistic, you remain optimistic with a lot of things. And if you're pessimistic in your core, you have to try to relearn to be optimistic if that's what you want to do. And the problem with that is there are feedback loops. Positivity enhances positivity and increases happiness and increases curiosity, etc., all of the mindsets. Whereas if you're negative, depressed, it's difficult to get out, and it creates negative feedback. The one thing I'm showing you this slide because there's a lot on the next slide. I do want to mention that a lot of positivity and negativity doesn't just depend on who you are innately, but it depends whether or not you're a believer in your own life and whether you think you can make a change in your life. And I want to stress that we all have a choice. We have a choice to change something if we want to. And we have a choice to keep something. So the word choice is always a multiple. So nurturing positivity, in order to do that, we need to notice and observe. Then we have to decide and accept the situation, then decide what to do with it. Then we need to change things in order to become more positive, if that's what we want. We have to do things, and then we have to integrate and habituate all our experiences. I will continue with the courage mindset. And the courage mindset was a difficult one to put into the sequence, because courage is really something that is very fundamental. And it's deeply ingrained in our psyche. And you can, to some degree, learn to become more courageous. And there are examples of that. I don't want to go into that. And it's complicated because without fear, there is no courage. That's my personal opinion. And the way it works is we start off with there are 4 different loops about courage mindset. One loop is what happens at the biochemical level. If there is fear and we're afraid of something, what can happen is we have an automatic biochemical response followed by a fight, flight, free process. And only after that, we feel the emotions. And after we feel the emotions, we can be conscious of them. So what I'm trying to say is, when there's real danger, we sometimes act before even feeling or thinking in particular. The conscious mindset is also that we can decide to feel emotions and to actually think about it. But we can only do that after we have calmed down a little bit in danger. And we have the choice to decide to manage fear. And we have a choice to then take risks. And it takes courage to take risks. It takes courage to feel your emotions fully. It takes courage to think about your emotions. So what I'm trying to say is, courage is really deeply ingrained in everything. Any question about the courage mindset, it's going to come up again later on when I talk about the other mindsets as well, because they build on this.
Simchi was just wondering if there has to be fear to have courage.
Well, do something which is dangerous and you're not aware that it is dangerous, then you haven't done it because you're courageous. You have done it because of instinct.
Yeah.
That's my thinking.
I see Rajan's hand up as well. Have you got a quick one, Rajan?
Yeah, I wanted to say, how does value come in picture? For example, a soldier may be fully aware that he is going to die, and still he goes forward facing the
That is
bullets.
courageous.
Because it's not a question of just estimating the fear, but a value system that for the honor of his unit or country, he or she will
Value
go.
systems are going to come in very much in the visionary mindset when we talk about that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Let's continue, Esther.
Okay, growth mindset. I'm not going to go over it. All I'm going to say is that I've had discussions with people telling me that the growth mindset is fundamental to all mindsets. And since I'm talking of evolving, developing, and becoming your own best self, yes, I would agree. But I have limited the concept of growth mindset a little bit, not to be evolving in all different aspects, but only evolving in terms of being open towards growth and in terms of being the opposite of a fixed mindset. So what happens if you want to grow, but you can't? We all have some big or some small traumata in our lives. And the whole idea is when you're trying to grow, there is something that's holding you back. So that's why I'm talking of a survivor mindset. And I'm going to define the survivor mindset in contrast to the victim mindset. And we all have had our own little traumata, and we all have had challenges that we have had to overcome. So a survivor is somebody who's overcome the challenges and who, after the challenges, can decide to grow and become whoever they want to be. That's how I define that concept. And there are a whole variety of different ways of how you can turn into a survivor in a conscious way. You first have to understand what's holding you back, what the overwhelm is. Then you have to have a bit of courage to want to heal yourself. Then you have to figure out how to catch triggers, have to feel the emotions, integrate emotions and understand them, adopt the growth mindset, rediscover your identity, and then nurture the survivor in you. So there's a whole variety of different steps in doing that. And with all of these mindsets, there are some strategies I've integrated. I'm not showing them though. So the morality mindset, that is a very interesting one. And I'm going to stop after that, because after you have survived traumata, it means you have to have a notion of knowing what is right and wrong, what's good and bad. You have to have a conscience about things you might have done that were not so kosher, or you may have to accept and forgive other people. So the whole idea is you have to know a little bit about your morality, and this is where the values come in as well. You have to know what your values are and why you have particular values. And there are ways of developing a moral compass, and this is a very fast review of it. Society, our parents, our teachers, our etc., the whole society imposes social norms on us, and we form our morality based on that. And little kids also, before they're exposed to all the concepts of what's right and wrong, already have some type of morality compass that they may or may not change throughout their lives. So society changes, has different moral concepts. cultures have different moral concepts a little bit. So the whole idea is that you basically have developed your own moral compass. You can adopt one, you can you can become a lawyer and be really aware of that, or you can think about what you consider right and wrong. Moral compass can be religious, but it doesn't need to be, because there are societies that don't have a religion, but that believe in not doing unto others what you don't like to have done unto you. So this is a rather big, complex theme. Any questions on developing a moral compass or on the survivor?
Peter just notes that the morality compass, values are behind even the lower mindsets.
Yes.
There's a comment there, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so once you know what's right and wrong, once you've grown up with and mastered your own challenges, once you have a growth mindset and you have the courage to look at all of that, what you can do is that sets the foundation to be some type of visionary. And I'm using the word visionary really broadly, because vision may mean a purpose in life. It may mean a vision of creating certain things in life. It may mean doing something in society. So we all have something like a vision in our psyche. Every human being does that. It's just some people are more outgoing about their own vision. Other people are more adaptive and take on other people's visions. You can be a follower or you can be a leader. So a visionary is basically somebody who has a strong belief in something and wants to go after that. And a profile of a visionary who is more at the extreme end of being a visionary is, it starts off of being a dreamer with a calling. Visionaries are generally futuristic. They're strategic thinkers. They're determined to implement their visions, and in a lot of cases, they're change agents. So that's the extreme end. And you can be a visionary in your own life. Now, the accountability mindset is a little complex, because you have to be responsible for your own life. You have to be responsible for your actions and responsible for solving problems if they're your problems. The opposite of that is somebody who says, this is all being done to me, and I'm just trying to survive. Whereas somebody who's accountable for their own actions takes up responsibility, follows through, makes amendments, and all of those things. So it starts off with the victim mindset, turns into survivor mindset, then it turns into somebody who acts on everything and who takes leadership roles. And the accountability is difficult, especially if you're a leader. For example, if you are in a company and you make decisions that are good for some of your employees, but not so good for the others, then you have to be accountable to those for whom you did not make good decisions and make amendments to make things right for them, if there is a way of doing it right. So accountability means being able to make hard decisions in a lot of situations and being accountable for yourself. Showing gratitude is part of accountability as well for yourself. So I'm going to go over that. The next mindset is the sage mindset. And I've defined the sage mindset to be somebody who is really incorporated all the previous mindsets, who has got a high EQ, high emotional intelligence, and who is also smart cognitively, who has a lot of extensive knowledge and has thought about a lot of things, and who has reflected on their own experiences and learned from them. So a sage in this definition is somebody who's become really wise and is giving back. And there are different categories of sages, like you can be a scholar, a thinker, and a leader that way. You can be a teacher who gives back, a consultant, a mentor, or if you are a really wise person, you can be a shaman, a guru, either a religious leader or a leader in industry. I mean, there are many different ways in which you can show sage qualities. And I'd like to think that a lot of coaches tend to fit into the sage category really nicely. And sages have a whole set of character traits that they can learn and have learned. And not only have they learned it, they live those qualities. They live being resilient. They live being wise. They live being a person with dignity, and they have a strong moral compass. All of these things all at once. I'm sorry, I'm just going over really quickly here. There are two more mindsets left. One is the hero mindset, and there are two different types of hero mindsets. One is, I think every human being, by the sheer fact of being alive, is a hero in their own life. The other thing is a more traditional classical hero, where the classical hero goes out, slays their sword, has victory over a dragon, over a challenge, or whatever it is, and saves the world. So a hero is a sage to some degree, who actually does this for the bigger good in the world, and who does it in order to save other people. A classical hero is somebody with extraordinary abilities to some degree. And heroes have a vision. I'm just thinking, I don't know, there are many different heroes and many different figures who could be heroes. They have qualities, they always have plans, they always have answers, they are brave, they take risks, and heroes generally have transformative results. And the last mindset in all of this is somebody who is not just a hero and a sage, but somebody who, in addition, knows about all of these things, sort of takes maybe credit, but really is very humble about it. Somebody who does these things for the greater good, not for themselves. It's not about them anymore. It's about the world. It's about other people. And they're very humble, and they show a lot of gratitude. They show a lot of gratitude for many of the challenges they have actually experienced and how they've grown. And this is where the values come in. They have high virtuous values as well. So the concept of values is integrated into several different mindsets. And the making of a saint is kind of a very interesting concept. And I want to stress, this is not something that humanity or individual people do strive for or want to strive for, but it is something that some people would like to strive for, especially if there's a religious underlying. And the whole idea is about saints. They do the ultimate sacrifice of even sacrificing themselves if need be, but their legacy will live on. So this is like a little, how should I say, philosophical religious. Okay. Any questions?
There's a note actually which Michael says. I sort of would bring up so you can have a think about this while everybody's in breakout shortly. But Michael notes that perhaps mindsets can be in a self-reinforcing cycle, that they're maybe established in childhood and they persist unconsciously.
It exists unconsciously, but it is nice if you can make these things conscious, because that helps people grow in certain aspects that they wish to grow, if that's what they want to do. Okay. What I suggest is we discuss the concept of mindsets in the discussion in smaller groups. And I'm particularly interested in what you make out of the mindsets for yourself. Which mindsets resonate with you, why and how? And then what I wonder is also if you have different views on the mindsets, how they need to be organized differently, whether there are some mindsets that are missing from this picture, and all of that. So try and discuss, first of all, what the mindsets mean to you, and then figure out what you think about this model that I was presenting, or this framework that I was suggesting. Thank you. It would be nice if anybody who has got some burning questions, I'd be happy to address them as well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So we had a very nice discussion about where we situated ourselves, and I was wondering, if you find yourself in a certain mindset, and you identify it, you get conscious of it, but you want to get out of it. Is there a toolkit or a set of questions for each one you can ask yourself, so you can, move out of it and go to a more desired one?
Yes. And in the second discussion, we're going to reflect on the mindsets we have and how we can use this as a tool, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, with our clients. And as a coach, that is exactly what you would be doing with your clients, Mami.
Yeah, thank you.
This is for you to figure out. So far, it's just a tool.
And James.
Hi, Esther. Thanks for your presentation. I just had a quick question on how personality type might affect your ability to change mindset. Does it have an impact on it? Or is that a whole other area?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Personality does definitely affect your readiness or willingness to want to change mindsets. Yeah. I'm not going to classify certain types of personalities who may or may not be as lenient to change their specific mindsets in specific ways, because that's really up to the individual. I don't want to generalize this. Is that okay? Okay, there are so many comments and so many questions coming up. I'm getting a little frazzled reading through all of them. This is wonderful. Let's take 2 more questions and then I'll push on. How about that?
Okay, go on now.
Yeah, we discussed a lot in our group about the sequence of them. So it almost felt like you have to do one, you have to be in that one mindset. The next step in your growth journey would be the other one. Is that the case, or does everyone have a bit of different ratios of each mindset in them? So how to use this? Because not everyone would perhaps have the hero mindset. With that sequence, for example, we didn't fit the hero fitting there, because that is, to me, for example, an additional element, right? So everyone could have courage mindset, but to have the hero mindset and saying, like, for example, being a firefighter and putting others' life, it's not necessarily the next level after that. It's almost a bit of a different dimension. So what's the approach you have, Esther?
Exactly. I'm going to answer that in the next 5 minutes.
Okay.
And yes, there is an overall transition. However, it does not mean that you have to master one mindset before you go to the next one. And
okay.
Is there another question? Otherwise, I'll just take this as a leeway to push on.
I think looking at the time, let's push on, because we'll have more time for questions at the end then.
What I'm going to do next is I'm going to introduce the concepts of all of the mindsets all in one, and mention that there is a development across and within each of the mindsets. And the way we're going to think about this is that everybody has an ability to grow within each mindset and across the whole mindsets. And this may be different for every single human being. And what I've created is something that I'm going to call a Unique Mindset Profile Fingerprint, in short, UMPF, which basically is something for each individual. And every individual can be at a certain level. And I just want to, yes. So we're turning this into a kind of quantitative tool. If we take one mindset, we can figure out where we are relative to a population average, whether we are above or below. And what I'm doing is I'm taking all of the mindsets and creating these of structures and combining it. And if you combine it, you end up with a picture that looks like this. And what that means is that this circle in the middle, the slightly darker gray, is for a totally average person. If you are a person who is very curious, who claims, like Einstein, who claims that because he's curious, he was able to do all of his research, then he's probably up a little bit higher among the 2 or 3 sigma level in curiosity compared to the average distribution. And if you're an optimist, you're probably in the positivity side above the norm. And if you are someone who goes out and likes to slay their sword and protect everybody and encourage, or if you are confronting your own fears, then you have a strong courage project. So what you can do is, for yourself, you can point yourself into this picture at various different levels. And this is a matter of self-assessment. And what's nice about this is that you can decide that you may want to enhance a certain type of mindset in a certain way. Like, for example, it's not everybody's calling to be a hero. It's certainly not everybody's calling to be a visionary. However, you might want to be a bit more of a visionary in an abstract manner, coming up with wonderful theories, but not going out into the field and fighting for your country or whatever it is. So, in other words, you can figure out for yourself where you are today and you can figure out where you may want to be. So, and if you're talking of becoming your own best self, you have your mindsets, then there are lots of things that happen to you that you don't have power over. And then there are actions you can take. And if you reflect on all of those and reach some decisions, then you can make choices, and then you have choices, and you can change things. So basically, by reflecting on where you are today, who you want to be tomorrow, you can figure out things like what is your ideal self? You can figure out what is your perceived self, being who are you from your own viewpoint. You can ask your friends and get an external idea and get a somewhat more objective notion of what your objective self is. And then there is another self, which is the self of your actions. What do your actions show that who you are? For example, if you have a hungry child and you go into a store and you steal some milk for your child because you don't have money, I'm not judging that. I'm only saying your action is you stole something, but for a good purpose. So that is your real self. In real life, your ideal self may say, I will never steal, but you did it. So that's an example of the difference between real self, perceived self, and objective self. And then there is the sort of imagined self, your ideal self, which is who you want to be, who you would like to be, but who you may not be able to be, or who you might be able to be if you work on it and if you become your best self. So these are all the questions you can raise. And if you want to put this together into a general overview, you can figure out where you are, which is the bottom part of the arrow. And you can say, I want to improve this or that or this mindset. And how do I get there? And this is also something that you could do if you use this as a tool with your clients. You can talk with your clients of where they are today, where they want to be after a year or so, or whatever criteria you use. And then you can ask them after half a year whether they've made progress towards who they want to be and work with them on that scale. So I think this is probably a good place to start the second discussion. We have only 15 minutes left, do we?
Yeah, wow, crikey, yeah, we've got 15 minutes left. We've got some questions in the chat, but John, I'm going to
okay.
Let's talk about those while and then break out, and we can.
Okay.
I can ask a question, Esther.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, I just wonder, have you managed to convert this into some sort of simple, usable tool so that people can go through the mindsets, click 1 to 5, and get the chart at the end? You know, have you driven it to that stage?
I am working on that.
Okay.
And the other thing I'm working on, and this is something that I'd like to do, is not just turn it into a self-assessment tool, which is great, but it would be nice to turn it into something that is a bit more founded in research and in absolute values, which is very difficult and will take forever. But right now, I'm still tweaking the concept of the mindsets and which ones to include in what way. And right now, this is still fresh off the table in terms of it hasn't been applied much yet.
Okay, thank you.
So your input will be very valuable.
And actually on that, I think there's so much richness in this chat stream as well.
Yes.
I can picture Esther poring over this later on going, oh, this is a great point, that's a great point, the other's a great point.
A question for Esther. You mentioned you're developing something. Are you developing an app or some sort of digital platform?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That'd be interesting.
Eventually.
I'll definitely connect with you on LinkedIn. No, I have a background in computer UI design, stuff like that.
Right now,
There
I'm
is
using it in terms of the picture, the last picture that you got, giving that to clients and asking them to self-assess where they think they are and where they may want to be.
Yeah, something.
And what about a 360?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
was that another voice coming in?
I was just asking about possibly a 360 after you develop the self-assessment, then, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one to get the other broader perspectives. Oh, wonderful. Do you know, inadvertently, you are all probably contributing to the development of Esther's emerging thinking on this. So thank you.
That would be cool.
That was really cool. Do connect with Esther, and Esther's email address is in that note that I put above as well. And you're doing a course on this as well, aren't you, Esther, coming up? Can you tell us some details on that?
That will be in January, and please reach out to me if you want to find out more.
Yeah. And do you know, we were saying just in the breakout rooms that I think we could have done a dialogue on each of these different mindsets and each of these different, well, I mean, in my mind, I'm calling it like a persona as well. And so, Esther, you've got a lot into 90 minutes. I mean, thank you for that. And Esther, just when we've got some networking now, but just before we head into the networking, can I ask you, what's your reflection of the previous 90 minutes? What sticks in your mind from the conversations we've been having?
What sticks in my mind is that this was a little too ambitious for a 90-minute session. On the other hand, in order to get the whole picture, you need to know a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. And I wanted people to get a general overview of what this is, what can be done, with more to come. But I hope you've gotten the idea that there are many different mindsets that everybody can work on, and that everybody can, and beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, growth is in the eyes of the beholder, and everybody has their own way of doing that. And you were fantastic, Nicola. Thank you.
Oh, you are really, really welcome. It's been a privilege and a pleasure hosting you for this GPS dialogue. It's been wonderful. Thank you, Esther. And there's a couple here from Michael as well. I think it's gone off my screen, but he was saying you're not too ambitious. It's been a wonderful overview, and so thank you for letting us into your world and how you're viewing mindsets as well. Thank you.